There comes a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you begin to realize that your life is not moving forward, it's repeating the same mornings, the same thoughts, the same reactions, the same frustrations, the same limitations dressed in different situations. And at some point, something inside you starts asking a question that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. What if this doesn't change? Not next week, not next year, not someday. What if this is it? What if the life you're living right now becomes the life you keep living? That question is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront something deeper than circumstances, deeper than money, deeper than opportunity. It forces you to confront your mind, because here is the truth that most people never fully accept. Your life is not a result of what's happening around you. Your life is a reflection of what's happening within you. The patterns you live, the results you produce, the limits you keep hitting. They are not accidents. They are expressions. Expressions of how you think, how you believe, how you see yourself. Napoleon Hill spoke of this as the starting point of all achievement. Earl Nightingale defined it as the determining factor of destiny. Bob Proctor made it unmistakably clear. Your results are a mirror of your internal world. And if the reflection isn't changing, it's not the mirror that needs to be adjusted. It's the image. It's you. And that realization is where everything begins. And everything breaks. Because the moment you understand that your current life is not fixed, not permanent, not assigned, but created, you lose the ability to blame. You lose the comfort of excuses. You lose the illusion that something outside of you is holding you back. And what remains is responsibility. Pure, undeniable responsibility. And for most people, that feels heavy. Because responsibility means there is no one coming to save you. No perfect opportunity waiting around the corner. No sudden moment where everything magically aligns. It means that if your life is going to change, you are the one who must change it. But hidden inside that responsibility is something far more powerful than comfort. Freedom. Because if you are the cause, then you can become the solution. But that solution does not begin with effort. It begins with awareness. Awareness of how you think. Awareness of what you believe. Awareness of the patterns you've been repeating unconsciously for years, because most people don't live by choice. They live by programming. They operate on ideas that were planted long before they had the awareness to question them. Ideas about money, about success, about what's possible, about what they deserve. And those ideas become invisible boundaries, limits that feel real, even though they were never consciously chosen. You were told to be realistic. To not expect too much. To be grateful for what you have and not reach too far. And slowly, those messages became your voice, your identity, your paradigm, a mental framework that controls your perception, your decisions, your actions, and ultimately your results. And the most dangerous part is that you don't even realize it's there. You think you're making choices, but in reality, your paradigm is making them for you. It decides how big you think. How far you go. How much you allow yourself to have. And until you become aware of it, you will continue to live inside it, repeating the same results over and over again, wondering why nothing changes. This is why people stay stuck, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity, but because they are trapped in a way of thinking that keeps producing the same outcomes. And no matter how hard you try to change your life, if you don't change your mind, you will keep recreating the same reality. Different day. Same life. Because the outer world always reflects the inner one. If your thinking is limited, Your results will be limited dot if your beliefs are small. Your life will be small dot if your identity is constrained. Your possibilities will be constrained. And that's not punishment, that's alignment. Because life responds to who you are, not what you wish for. You can want more. You can desire change. You can imagine a different life. But if your internal state does not match that vision, you will remain where you are dot. So the question is not, why isn't my life changing? The question is, why am I not changing? Because change, real change, is internal dot. It is a shift in perception, a shift in belief, shift in identity dot. It is the moment you stop seeing yourself as someone who is limited and begin to see yourself as someone who is capable dot, not in theory, but in truth. And that shift does not happen by accident dot. It happens by decision dot. A decision to no longer accept the patterns that have been holding you back, a decision to question everything you've been taught, a decision to step outside of what feels comfortable and into what feels possible. Asterisk, because what feels comfortable is simply what you're used to, and what you're used to has created the life you're currently living dot. So if you want a different life, you must become comfortable with something different. Different thoughts dot, different actions, different standards, different expectations. And that is where resistance appears, because the moment you begin to think differently, your old identity will push back dot. It will try to pull you back into the familiar, into the safe, into the known dot. It will tell you that you're not ready, that you're not capable, that you should wait. But that voice is not truth dot. It is conditioning dot. It is the echo of a past version of you trying to survive dot. And if you listen to it, you will stay where you are. But if you override it, if you choose to act in spite of it, you begin to break the cycle that you begin to reprogram your mind. You begin to build a new identity dot. And identity is everything, because you don't get what you want in life. You get what you are dot. And if you remain the same, your life will remain the same dot, no matter how much you hope dot, no matter how much you try dot, no matter how much you wish things were different. Because wishing does not create change. Becoming does dot. So who must you become? That is the question that changes everything dot. Not what do you want, not what do you need, but who do you need to be to live the life you imagine? Because that version of you thinks differently dot, acts differently, decides differently. That version of you does not hesitate the way you do now, does not doubt. The way you do now is not settle. The way you do now dot. And until you begin to align with that version, you will continue to live as the current one dot. So you make a decision, not a weak one dot, not a temporary one, but a definitive one, a decision that you are no longer available for the life you've been living, a decision that you will no longer accept average when you are capable of more, a decision that you will change your mind or accept the consequences of staying the same dot, because there is no middle ground dot. You either evolve or you repeat dot. And repetition is the slowest form of failure that. It doesn't feel dramatic, that it doesn't feel urgent, but it steals your potential day by day, year by year, until one day you look back and realize you lived a life that never truly expanded dot. And that realization is far more painful than any temporary discomfort. Growth requires dot. So choose to think differently, choose to see yourself differently, choose to act differently dot, because that choice is where your new life begins. And once you make it, there is no going back dot, only forward, only growth, only transformation. And it all starts with your mind dot, because once you make that decision, once you truly decide that you will no longer tolerate the life that came from your old way of thinking, The real work begins not outside, not inside, you begin to notice the thoughts you once ignored, the quiet doubts, the automatic reactions, the subtle beliefs that whisper limitations into your decisions. And for the first time, you don't blindly follow them. You observe them, you question them, you challenge them, because now you understand something most people never realize. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. Thoughts are not facts. They are patterns formed through repetition. And repetition can be changed, but only if you become aware, only if you refuse to let your mind run on autopilot. Because autopilot is what created the life you are trying to leave behind. So you become intentional. You begin to choose your thoughts. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently. Because consistency is what rewires the mind. You replace doubt with direction. You replace fear with focus. You replace limitation with possibility. And at first, it feels unnatural, because it is. You are stepping outside of everything you have known. You are thinking in ways that your current identity is not used to, and your mind will resist. It will try to pull you back into familiar thinking, back into old stories, back into the same mental loops that kept you comfortable, but stuck. And this is where most people give up. Because they mistake resistance for a sign that something is wrong. But resistance is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that you are changing. It is a sign that you are breaking patterns that have been running for years. And anything that has been repeated long enough will fight to stay alive. So you keep going. You persist. You stay with it, even when it feels uncomfortable, because you understand something powerful. Your current thoughts created your current life. So new thoughts must create a new life. But thinking differently is only the beginning, because thoughts without action change nothing. You must act in alignment with a new way of thinking, even when it feels unfamiliar, even when it feels uncertain, even when it feels like you are stepping into a version of yourself that you don't fully recognize yet, because that is exactly what you are doing. You are becoming, and becoming requires action. Consistent, deliberate, focused action, not based on mood, not based on motivation, but based on decision. Because motivation fades, emotion fluctuates. But decision, when it is real, remains, and it is that decision that carries you forward. Day after day, step after step, even when progress is slow, even when results are not immediate, even when doubt tries to creep back in, because now you are no longer chasing quick results. You are building something deeper. Something stronger. You are building identity, and identity is what sustains everything. Because once you become the kind of person who thinks at a higher level, who acts with discipline, who follows through regardless of circumstances, your results stop being random. They become predictable, because success is no longer something you hope for. It becomes something you express. Through your habits, through your standards. Through your daily actions. This is where the shift becomes undeniable. You stop looking for shortcuts. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop hoping things will change, and you start creating change, because now you understand that waiting is a decision. Hesitation is a decision. Procrastination is a decision. And every decision either moves you forward or keeps you where you are. There is no neutral. There is no standing still. You are always moving in one direction or the other. And once you see that, you begin to take control. You begin to act with purpose. You begin to treat your time, your energy, your focus as assets. Because they are. They are the currency that builds your future. And how you invest them determines what your life becomes. So you become disciplined with your time. You become intentional with your focus. You eliminate distractions that once consumed your energy, because you realize something most people ignore. Every distraction is a delay in your progress. Every moment of unfocused energy is a moment that could have been used to build something meaningful. And when you start to value your time at that level, everything changes. You no longer waste hours. You no longer drift through your days. Become sharp. Focused. Present. Because you know exactly what you are building and why it matters. And that clarity fuels your discipline, because discipline without clarity feels like struggle, but discipline with clarity feels like purpose. It gives direction to your effort. It gives meaning to your actions. It gives strength to your consistency. And consistency is what compounds. Not once. Not occasionally, but every single day, because what you do daily determines what you become permanently. And as you continue, as you think differently, act differently, show up differently, something begins to happen. You start to feel different. You start to carry yourself differently. You start to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles, possibilities where you once saw limitations, because your perception has changed. And perception shapes reality. So when your perception expands, your reality follows. But this is not where you stop, because growth has no endpoint. There is always another level. Another standard. Another version of you waiting to be developed. And that realization keeps you moving. Not out of pressure, but out of purpose. Because now you are not trying to escape your old life. You are building a new one. And building requires patience. It requires resilience. It requires the ability to stay committed, even when results are not immediate, because what you are creating is not temporary. It is foundational. It is lasting. It is real. And that kind of creation takes time. But time is no longer your enemy, because you are no longer wasting it. You are using it, investing it. Maximizing it. And as you do, you begin to see something that changes everything. Your life is no longer repeating. It is evolving. And that evolution is the result of one simple truth. You changed your mind. And because you changed your mind, you changed your direction. And because you changed your direction, you changed your life. So now there is no going back. No returning to the old patterns. No settling for the old results. Because you have seen what is possible. You have felt what it means to grow. You have experienced what it means to take control. And once you experience that, you cannot ignore it. You cannot forget it. You cannot go back to who you were, because now you are aware. And awareness changes everything. So keep going. Keep thinking at a higher level. Keep acting with discipline. Keep aligning with your vision, because every step you take is building the life you once thought was out of reach. And that life is no longer distant. It is becoming real. Right now, through every thought you choose, through every action you take, through every decision you make. So continue, because this is not the end. This is the beginning. And what comes next is entirely up to you. And as you continue, you begin to notice something even more profound, that the world hasn't changed. The opportunities haven't magically multiplied overnight. The external circumstances still look familiar, but you are no longer the same. And because you are no longer the same, everything feels different. You react differently. You interpret situations differently. You respond with intention instead of impulse. And this is where the true power reveals itself. Because life does not respond to your intentions alone. It responds to your state of being. And your state of being is now elevated. You are no longer operating from survival. You are no longer reacting from fear. You are no longer making decisions from limitation. You are operating from awareness. From clarity. From control. And when you operate from that level, you begin to see what was always there, but previously invisible. Opportunities that once went unnoticed now stand out. Ideas that once felt out of reach now feel possible. Paths that once seemed closed now begin to open, not because the world suddenly changed, but because your perception did. And perception is everything, because what you see determines what you pursue, and what you pursue determines what you create. So when your vision expands, your actions expand. Your decisions expand. Your life expands. And this expansion becomes addictive, not in a destructive way, but in a powerful, life-altering way. Because once you feel progress, once you experience growth, once you realize that you are no longer stuck, you never want to go back. You never want to shrink again. You never want to return to a life of repetition, limitation, and unconscious living. Because now you know better, and knowing better creates a responsibility. A responsibility to live at the level of your awareness. To act in alignment with what you now understand. Because once you know what is possible, settling becomes unbearable. Average becomes uncomfortable, and comfort loses its appeal, because you realize something most people ignore. Comfort is not always safe. Comfort can be a trap, a slow, silent trap that keeps you in the same place while convincing you that everything is fine, but everything is not fine. If you are not growing. Everything is not fine. If you are not expanding. Everything is not fine. If you are not becoming more of who you are capable of being. And now, you refuse to accept that. You refuse to stay where you are. You refuse to think the same way. You refuse to live the same life, because you understand the cost. You understand that staying the same is not neutral. It is regression. It is wasted potential. It is a life that never fully expresses what it could have been. And you are no longer willing to live that life. So you keep moving, not out of desperation, but out of decision, a calm, grounded, unshakable decision that you are becoming something greater. And that decision fuels everything. It fuels your discipline. It fuels your focus. It fuels your consistency. Because now, you are not trying to prove anything. You are simply aligning with who you have decided to be. And that alignment removes friction. It removes internal conflict. It removes the constant battle between what you want and what you do. Because now, they are the same. Your actions reflect your vision. Your habits reflect your standards. Your results reflect your identity. And when those elements are aligned, there is no confusion. There is no hesitation. There is only movement. Forward movement, consistent movement, purposeful movement, and that movement creates momentum. And momentum is powerful. Because once it builds, it becomes easier to continue than to stop. Your habits become automatic. Your discipline becomes natural. Your focus becomes effortless. And what once required effort becomes your normal. And that is when the shift becomes undeniable. Because now, you are no longer trying to change your life. Your life has already changed. Internally. And the external world is simply catching up. And it will catch up because it has no choice. Because reality always aligns with identity. So as your identity rises, your results must rise. Your opportunities must rise. Your standards must rise. Because everything around you is responding to who you have become. And that is the moment where everything clicks, where everything makes sense, where you finally understand. At the deepest level, it was never about circumstances. It was never about luck. It was never about timing. It was always about you. Your thinking, your beliefs, your identity, and the moment you changed those, everything else followed. So now, there is nothing left to question, nothing left to doubt, nothing left to wait for, because the path is clear. The direction is set, and the person you are becoming is already capable of the life you once only imagined. So you continue, without hesitation, without fear, without looking back, because looking back serves no purpose. The old version of you no longer exists. The old patterns no longer control you. The old limits no longer define you. And from this point forward, you move with certainty. With clarity. With purpose. Because you are no longer reacting to life. You are leading it. And leaders do not wait. They act. They build. They create. They evolve. And that evolution never stops. Because there is always more to become, more to expand, more to achieve. But now, it is no longer about chasing. It is about expressing. Expressing your potential, expressing your discipline, expressing your vision through your actions. And that expression becomes your life. So continue. Continue thinking bigger. Continue acting stronger. Continue becoming more. Because the life you want is not something you find. It is something you build. And you are building it. Right now. With every thought, with every decision, with every action. So don't slow down. Don't hesitate. Don't question what you already know to be true. Because you've already crossed the line. You've already made the shift. You've already changed your mind. And once that happens, there is only one direction left. Forward. Into a life that no longer repeats, but evolves. Into a life that no longer limits, but expands. Into a life that no longer waits, but creates. And that life is yours. Now live it like you mean it. If this message resonated with you, if something inside you shifted, then this is your moment. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And right now, there's another video appearing on your screen. Watch it, because this journey doesn't end here. It's only just beginning. I'll see you there, because even now, even after everything you've heard, there is one final barrier that will try to hold you back. It won't come as fear, it won't come as doubt, it will come as delay. As soon as I'm ready, as soon as I have more time, as soon as things settle down. And it sounds reasonable. It sounds logical. It sounds like patience. But it is not patience. Is avoidance, disguised as preparation. Because readiness is not something you wait for. Readiness is something you create through action, through movement, through stepping forward, before you feel fully prepared. Because if you wait until you feel ready, you will wait forever. There will always be another reason, another excuse, another moment that feels more convenient. And while you wait, life moves, opportunities pass, time continues, and the version of you that you could have become remains unrealized, not because you weren't capable, but because you hesitated. And hesitation is the silent killer of potential. It doesn't destroy you instantly. It slowly delays you, day after day, decision after decision. Until one day, you look back and realize how much time was lost to waiting. But you are not that person anymore. You don't wait. You move, even if it's imperfect, even if it's uncertain, even if it's uncomfortable, because now you understand something that most people never fully grasp. Clarity comes from action. confidence, comes from action. Growth comes from action. Not from thinking about it. Not from planning endlessly. Not from waiting for the perfect moment. From doing. From stepping forward, from engaging with reality instead of avoiding it. And every time you take action, you gain something. Experience. Feedback. Awareness. And those elements refine you. They sharpen your thinking. They strengthen your identity. They move you closer to who you are becoming. So you act, not recklessly, not without direction, but decisively, because you know where you're going, and more importantly, you know who you are becoming. And that clarity removes hesitation, because hesitation only exists when identity is unclear. But when identity is solid, action becomes natural. You no longer question whether you should move forward. You simply do. And that shift from questioning to acting is what separates those who stay stuck from those who break through. Because breakthrough does not happen in thought. It happens in motion. It happens when you step beyond your comfort, when you challenge your limits, when you prove to yourself through action that you are capable of more. And that proof is what builds belief. Belief, not something you repeat. Not something you try to convince yourself of, but something you know because you've experienced it, because you've lived it, because you've created it. And once belief becomes real, it becomes unshakable. No longer dependent on circumstances. No longer fragile. No longer easily influenced. It becomes part of who you are. And from that place, you operate differently. You think differently. You act differently. You live differently. Because now, you are not trying to become something. You are expressing it. And that expression is what the world responds to. Not your intentions, not your desires, but your identity. In action. So you continue, without waiting, without delaying. Without holding back. Because you understand that time is not something you have. Time is something you use. And how you use it defines everything. So you use it with intention. You use it with focus. You use it to build, not to hesitate. To create, not to wait. To move, not to stall. And as you do, you begin to feel something that is rare, but powerful. Control. Not control over everything that happens, but control over how you respond, how you think, how you act. And that control is what gives you freedom. Because when you control your internal state, no external situation can dominate you. No setback can define you. No obstacle can stop you. It can challenge you. It can test you, but it cannot break you. Because you are no longer fragile. You are no longer dependent. You are no longer reactive. You are grounded. Centered. Focused. And from that state, you become unstoppable. Not in a loud, aggressive way, but in a quiet, consistent, relentless way. The kind that doesn't seek attention, but produces results. The kind that doesn't rely on motivation, but is driven by identity. And that identity is now solid because you built it through thought, through discipline, through action, consistency. And that process has transformed you. You are no longer the person who started this journey. You don't think the same. You don't react the same. You don't accept the same because you have elevated. Internally. An internal elevation always leads to external expansion. Always. It may take time. It may require patience, but it is inevitable. Because once the cause changes, the effect must follow. So you trust the process. Not blindly, but confidently. Because you understand it. Because you've lived it. Because you've seen the shift within yourself. And that trust eliminates doubt. It eliminates the need to constantly question. It replaces uncertainty with direction dot and direction. Creates momentum dot and momentum. Creates results dot. So now, you don't stop. You don't slow down. You don't go back, because going back is no longer an option. Not because you can't, but because you won. P. Because you've seen too much. You've grown too much. You've become too aware dot in awareness. Once expanded, never contracts back to ignorance dot. So you move forward dot with clarity dot with purpose. Certainty. Because you know exactly what is at stake dot. Not just success, not just money dot, not just results. Your potential dot, your growth dot, your life. And that is too valuable to waste dot. So you act dot, you build, you evolve every single day dot, without excuse, without delay dot, without compromise, because you made a decision. Real one, a permanent one dot, to change your mind or accept the same life. And you chose to change, and that choice has already changed everything dot. So now there is nothing left to say, only something left to do dot. Continue dot, because this version of you doesn't stop, doesn't settle, doesn't go back dot. It grows, that expands, that it creates, and it lives at a level that once felt impossible dot. And now it's your reality. Go live it.